morning. This morning we are going to be reading Genesis chapter 22, and we're actually going to read the whole chapter, verses 1 through 24. So let's get started. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, "Abraham." And he said, "Here I am." He said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you." And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went, both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." So they went both of them together. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here I am." He said, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." As it is said to this day, "On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." And I want to just point out and say that the gods of this world, the ones that we create, back in that day, would require the sacrifice of lambs, animals, even children, for the promised success of harvests, business ventures, you name it, and that is something that they required in order to have success in those areas. And that's something that to this day is still practiced, where we might not look at it the same, but the same messages are still pushed on people when they are encouraged to get abortions. If you sacrifice your child that you're carrying, you will have a better life because you won't have to deal with the hardships. When that's just a lie. And that's something that's meant to deceive us and take something that is beautiful, a life that is made in the image of God, and destroy it and put it on the sacrificial altar of ourselves, offering up to ourselves this offering in the hopes and promises of a better life. If you give God whatever circumstance you are dealing with, He can transform even the worst situation into something that is beautiful and magnifying and glorifying to Him. That doesn't mean you're going to have success in everything you do. In fact, I would say it's probably not going to be the case, but that doesn't mean that that's all this life is for. One other thing that I want to point out is that a lot of people look at this passage and they think, "Oh, the Lord, He's just as bad as everyone else." The fact that He would test Abraham in this way. And that's actually not true. The Lord clearly makes plain throughout the scriptures that He is requiring to be number 1 in your life. He doesn't want you to put Him on number 2, 3, 10, whatever, on a list of many things. He needs to be the top priority in your life. Everything else can follow behind Him in whatever order you want, but as long as God is on the top pedestal of your life, it'll be okay. So let's get back to it and we'll finish off the passage. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this, and have not withheld your son, your only son. I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. Now after these things it was told to Abraham, Behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor, Uz his firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, and Jidliph, and Bethuel. Bethuel fathered Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, whose name was Remuah, bore Tebah, Gehem, Tahash, and Maacah. That'll do it for today, everyone. And remember, don't think that anything in your life is too big for God to bring you through. He will always provide you an opportunity to escape any struggle or hardship that you're going through. And if you can't escape, He will give you the strength to endure it. I also just want to say that if you are someone that is considering having an abortion, I would encourage you to go to the Lord and just pray and ask for His hand of providence to guide you through this struggle, because there are so many resources throughout the world offered to people. I would encourage you to go to a church and seek guidance and wisdom. If they don't have any for you, go to another church. There will be a God-honoring church in the area that you're at, or even people that you might know in your life that can offer you help and support, and if even financially can help you get through these struggles. And if you're someone that has chosen abortion, that is not something that can condemn you forever. Just fall into the arms of Christ, ask for forgiveness, and recognize that what was lost was a life of a human, your child. But that doesn't mean that you have to live in that loss. Turn to the Lord and put Him as your number one in your life. You just have to make the Lord your first priority, and everything else will follow after that. Seek Him and His kingdom first, and all others shall be added unto you as well. So, as always, everyone, have a blessed day.